Module 1, quick recap of Workshop 1. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Fiona. Now, I mentioned in Workshop 1, from the very beginning, that Tao Te Ching is a collection of 81 short chapters or verses. And that 81 short chapter or verses is supposed to tell us everything we ought to know about Tao, I mean the universe. So, like what Kawan just now mentioned, Tao Te Ching is a very profound wisdom, which is, I agree, is very profound, because how can someone just summarize everything into just 81 short chapters or verses, and that will tell us everything that we ought to know about Tao. I think he has done it, has done a very good job. Lao Tzu has done a very good job. So, what can Tao Te Ching do for us? It provide profound insights into the nature of existence. So, if you are keen to know the nature of existence, yes, look out for Tao Te Ching. Yeah, and the concepts of the Tao. The Tao, you can call it as universe, can call it as anything you want, like just a name, a label, doesn't matter. Okay. And number 3 is the principles of living in harmony with the Tao. Not only it tells you where we come from, the nature of existence, the concept of Tao, and also show us how we should live in harmony with the Tao, 天人合一. When I talk about 天, it is a package deal that it will include 地. So it's actually 天地人合一啦. So 天人合一 is a short form of 天地人合一. Pepe say, can't see your slide, master. Oh, okay, give me a minute. My bad. Can see now? Everyone can see now? My bad. Thanks, Pepe, for pointing this out. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Anne. Okay, so yeah, I think where was it? What's the purpose of Tao Te Ching? Okay, so sum up is these 3 points, key points. Yeah. Oops. Okay, then we move on to talk about Tao Te Ching being the source code. That means it is the root source or the origin to everything that we know that exists in this universe. It's a source code. So for those who do programming or coding, you know what I mean by source code. Okay. So Lao Tzu talk about Tao, but Lao Tzu don't just create this Tao Te Ching out of nowhere. He must also have some reference point. All right. And that reference point, if I'm not wrong, it could be referring to the Tao that's been preached by Fu Xi. Okay. Fu Xi came out with this thing about yin yang, 八卦, 64卦, and blah, 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 talking about the Tao. Okay. That Tao, his Tao, is the same Tao as Lao Tzu's Tao. So my understanding is that he could have already referenced it back to Fu Xi Tao. Right? So in that sense, we go back to Fu Xi. Fu Xi back then in his era, there's no language. Don't have this thing about language that I could use, for example, English right now to communicate, to convey what I want to talk about to you. Back then, no, there's no language. So therefore, Fu Xi thought of a way to communicate, to convey messages. And that way that he used is called symbolism, symbols, image, signs. Okay, 卦象. All right, so that's where 象 comes about. For example, Fu Xi used one stroke, 一画开天. 一画 basically is to split it into yin and yang. So this is how he used it to communicate 一画开天, right? So therefore, over time, people have been using symbolism as a way to communicate mystic messages. And even up to today, when you learn I Ching prediction from me, I Ching feng shui from me, or any other metaphysics studies, we always talk about symbolism, and symbolism, is important in our learning and application. Not only that, there are a lot of masters out there who will talk about xiang. Whenever they talk about xiang, everything can be xiang. There could be 天象, I mean, looking at the nature, about the weather, about the cloud, about the sun, about eclipse, about everything, 叫天象啦，about 面相, about the physiology of 面相, and 地象 also about the terrain. That's where feng shui comes about, the 地象, the terrain. And then 卦象 is about divination. So everything's about 象. No choice, ma, because last time Fuxi can only use 象 to convey messages, ma. So over time, people talk about 象, they place a lot of importance on 象, which is not wrong, which is not wrong. But Lao Tzu noticed that and say that no, no, no. While it is not wrong to place emphasis on 象, but being over obsessive over 象 is bad. Why? Because Lao Tzu believed that being over obsessive with xiang basically will impede progress and breakthrough. That means our level of ascension in our learning will hit ceiling at some point in time. Why? Because we cannot break the barrier. 没有突破啦. So therefore, Lao Tzu says, I think we should 破相立道. 破相立道 basically means to do a soft reset, break away the obsession over 相, and then start understanding the Tao first, then come back to 相. Okay, so Lao Tzu's intention basically is very simple, is to bring on the actual Tao, the true Tao that Fuxi wanted to share, but couldn't due to the language constraints back then. Okay. So in chapter 1, 道德经, not 道德, in 道德经 chapter 1, Lao Tzu, pretty smart, in my own opinion, pretty smart, is that in chapter 1, he quickly wrote down a disclaimer. Right? So Lao Tzu perspective like that, this disclaimer is say like that. Say, look, out of goodwill, I'm going to explain about the Tao. This is what Lao Tzu, in my own imagination, I think this is what he's trying to tell us. He said, look, out of goodwill, I'm trying to explain about the Tao, something that Fuxi wanted to do but couldn't due to the lack of language. So when I share the Tao now, please do not be over obsessive with Tao. Now, why would he say that? It's because, again, he's against being obsessive over Xiang. So on the same logic, he didn't want to come up with a book on Tao Te Ching and Tao, and then everybody get being over obsessive with his way of Tao. And then he says here, 道可道，非常道. The very first sentence, 道可道，非常道. A lot of people have a lot of confusion over this statement, this liner, 道可道，非常道. From my understanding, it basically means if the Tao that can be told, then that is not the comprehensive Tao. That's not the entire Tao. It's only a fragment of the Tao that we know. Okay, so when Lao Tzu wrote this Tao Te Ching, he could only be telling us a fragment of the Tao that he could understand. There could be another portion that he didn't comprehend, so therefore couldn't write it out. This is my guess, lah. I may be wrong. Because based on this disclaimer, I think this is what he's trying to tell us, lah. Or he could only write what he know. He couldn't write what he don't know. Okay, so anyway, it applies even up to today that anything else, if someone else tell you that he know everything about the Tao, you can tell yourself that it's not the eternal Tao. 道可道，非常道. So this is very important. This is very important. Next, another important one is the second line. 名可名，非常名. It means if certain things can be labeled, then that label cannot or may not fully tell you what that thing is. Label. Okay? So that's why Tao Te Ching is trying to tell us don't go after label or being obsessive over label. So when people say that you are clever, that word clever, that label clever may not fully represent you lah. Okay. Okay, next. So the thing about name and label. So for example, during Fuxi time, when there's no language, the word Tao is practically non-existent, right? It is only with the advent of language that those smart people start to give it names to the best of their ability. So right now today we are using Tao to represent universe, to represent whatever, right? So therefore, there's a limit to the label that we are using to label certain thing or a person. So just remember that. Okay. Now, for example, using label. Let me ask you a question. Is the United States of America a democracy or a republic? Why I ask this question is linking us back to this thing about 名可名非常名, and that any label there is may not fully represent that thing that is trying to label. So what do you think? Is the United States of America a democracy or a republic? We have seen over the years, USA keep telling the whole world they are for democracy, they are for democracy, they are a democratic country, they do things, everything is democratic, things like that. Right? Yeah. But in fact, in the strictest term definition, they are not a democracy. I would call it a republic. Okay, or to be fair, is it a constitutional federal republic? Even their election system is not a democratic system, right? I'm sure you have seen some videos going around saying that the people in USA don't really directly vote for their president. All right, don't directly dictate who their president will be. Carl say yes. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. So when people say, especially when people keep telling people and other people that they are what, they represent this, they represent that, that is called labeling. Okay, but just remember, Dr. Jing say, the more they're trying to label themselves, the more they are not represented by that label. Okay, so just bear this in mind. And also in workshop 1, we talk about 有跟无. 有跟无 in 道德经 is very similar to the concept of yin and yang in 易经, but they are not the same. If they are the same, then why Lao Tzu want to switch name to call Wu and Yo? They are not the same, but the concept is the same, similar. It is the doorway, the gateway to Tao. 有跟无 is a gateway to Tao, but it's different from yin and yang. Okay, so I think in workshop 1, I also show you this slide. I say that before Yo, or we can simplify Yo as anything that is observable in existence. Yo, okay? And then what comes before Yo is the Wu. Wu, you can, in some way, you can call it nothingness, Wu. But in my terms, I call it unobservable. Something that is, is there, it's there, but you can't see it, you can't feel, you can't whatever, is nothingness there. But yet, the power of this Wu is able to give birth to all the observable, all the Yo. And in today's society, all of us are just focusing on Yo, or are living in the Yo existence, the realm of Yo. And a lot of people either ignore or are ignorant of the fact that there is a Wu dimension. Okay, so this is another important statement by Lao Tzu in Tao Te Ching. So what it's trying to tell us is that once we understand there is a Yo and a Wu, okay, when there's a Yo and a Wu, right, we should always stand from a standpoint of Wu to evaluate things. When we stand from the standpoint of Yo to look at things, our scope of vision is very narrow. Because this is, you're bounded by the Yo, okay? But if you take one step back into the Wu standpoint, you find that your scope is widened. Your horizon is almost limitless. So you can see more things, then possibilities are there also. Lin says subconsciousness can be subconsciousness. It's just that the Wu part, what it's trying to say here is that take one step back basically means is don't prejudge. Don't prejudge. The moment you prejudge, right, you are narrowing your scope of vision. Yes, consciousness is different plane in different planes. Yes, you can say that also. So that is why a lot of people go for meditation, is to go to a different plane to look at things. Some call it astral traveling and things like that. Well, it works, but in layman terms, basically means don't prejudge. Layman term lah, day to day living. Okay, so in 易经，阴跟阳就是易之门哈，is the gateway to 易经啊。So in 道德经，无跟有 is the gateway to the 道德经啊。So and before we ended the workshop one, I think I mentioned this. In 道德经 it says that you know 有 assistant is the source of all pains and worries. Now, this sounds a little bit like one religion that some of you might know, that it says that life is suffering, right? There's one religion to say that life is suffering. Okay, so yeah, so and why in that region you say life is suffering, and why is that suffering? Is because we have craving. We have craving, we have desires. Yeah. So in Tao Te Ching, it says Yo is a source of all pains and worries. So therefore, we all of us are living in this assistant, the Yo dimension. So that's why we are experiencing all sort of pain and worries in our life throughout our lifetime because of Yo. So if you don't want, or if you want to reduce your pain and worries, we should reduce the Yo and take one step back, go back into the Wu Pan. Qim seems to tie to some religion. Okay, so but Tao Te Ching is not linked to any religion, including Tao Jiao. Including Tao Jiao is not linked at all. It is a standalone, very neutral kind of a text to talk about nature, and it's not linked to any religion. Okay, so basically, I think Tao Te Ching is trying to tell us that there are a lot of man-made standards lah. There's a lot of man-made standards that human or those smarter humans impose on normal people or the masses. But that's want to tell you that the man-made standard doesn't define who we are. So for example, one of the man-made standard in Singapore is PSLE result. One man-made standard. You must have very good PSLE results, then you are considered good, then you can go into the good secondary school, and then you have 有钱. This is man-made standard. We have seen many stories, successful stories of successful people that didn't even pass PSLE but were very successful. Okay, so yeah, so don't be bogged down by this man-made standard. So 道德经 basically is like that 啦，名可名非常名啦。Cause that's right, it's a philosophy, it's a way of life. The way I see it is the way of life. How can we live in harmony with the Tao? Okay, and we end off workshop one with this statement. Why society can be so chaotic? Okay, Tao Te Ching has an answer for us. It is because there are four major causes. Now, of course, we know there are many causes of chaos. But if you classify them into broader categories, I think Tao Te Ching has nailed it. There are actually four major causes that that we can talk about that will cause society to be chaotic. And that is where we ended in workshop one. And that is where also we are starting on this workshop two in the next module. Workshop two.